What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Collector's Outpost. I am John, and I'm here with a special guest, Anakin Starkiller from @Stars End, and this is part 2 of our little saber chat here. So the last one we were talking about Ezra 3 and the Ahsoka series lightsabers, and now we're taking a look at Sabine's version. Yeah, I guess Ezra's 2 lightsaber. That's confusing. We're taking a look at the Sabine Ezra 2 configuration. We're taking a look at that. All right, so on the show, we actually did look at the Ezra 2.
TXU later does do a Sabine version that's a little bit closer to this than this one.
Yeah, and what I'm noticing right off the back is how different they actually are.
Oh, yeah.
Clamp cards, I mean, these things are totally different.
Yep.
Very interesting. So, what do we got here?
As a fan of Rebels, I originally wanted to do a version of Ezra's saber because when he got his new saber in season 3, it seemed to take a lot of elements from the original trilogy lightsabers, and I really liked that they were including that, right? This looks very much like the booster on Obi-Wan's lightsaber. It's got the sort of pommel cubes. It's got a tri-ring like Luke's saber. It's got the grenade feature
Kenobi
up here, right? It's got the recharge pins on the side, like on Anakin's saber. So it very much fit into that original trilogy world, which is sort of my favorite aesthetic in the different Star Wars.
I think a lot of people love those lightsabers.
Exactly. So I was when TXQ wanted to do an Ezra and they approached me, I was excited to do that design, and this is the version that I made for them. John has done what I think is the thing to do with the TXQ saber: strip it down, get rid of the anodizing, and get at it with acids and paints and stuff like that to try to bring out, the original trilogy aesthetic.
Yeah.
When the Ahsoka series came out, right, we knew that Sabine was going to be in it, and it looked as though they were going to continue the storyline, so there would be a version of Ezra's lightsaber showing up in that. When it actually showed up on screen, it was radically different than people had interpreted, because obviously, like, what we were working off before was a cartoon. Right. It was a cartoon in pixelation. So
some of you may have caught that we did see this version briefly in a hologram, right? With this top and everything, and it wasn't green like we saw in the Rebels. It was silver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was one thing that I noticed right up front, is that the live action, they went with a total silvery look.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've actually seen that the close-ups there.
But but that's the only time we actually see this actual version is in a hologram.
Right. So what you have is, this is my artistic interpretation of a design that was from the cartoon, because I wanted to make something that didn't look like the cartoon, that looked like something that was coming out of the Star Wars world. This is the artistic interpretation of the design by the people who were making the Ahsoka series, and then me copying all what they did. So instead of doing like a gear, they interpreted like the raised elements here as these little machined inserts, right? Each one of these is actually an individual part set in.
These are all set in?
Yeah.
Oh,
right. So what do you got? 16 around there, plus another 8 here. So each one of those is 16 plus 8 plus 2 is 26 different parts. Wow. Right. This is a different part. This is a different part.
So are these the same thing? Are these also set in like this? Or are they kind of like clipped in underneath the gold?
There's a machined groove there, and then they're set in with like a little bit of super glue just to hold them in place.
Oh, gotcha. Very cool.
This grenade they interpreted a little bit different, and then they added these guards, right? That seem like they came out of Cal's.
Yeah.
Right. I was contacted by a company in China that had done some machining for me, that said that they wanted to start a lightsaber company, and then they wanted me to design for them. So I had a design for the Sabine saber. I sent it to them. It seemed like they were going to move forward, and then I heard crickets for like a year. So they were wishy-washy about whether they were going to move forward with it, and then they said they got some other work, so it was going on the back burner. So I had basically thought that the production had stopped. And then about a year later, they contacted me and they said, all these sabers are done. Do you want to buy them from us?
They ran them without even you knowing?
Yeah, they ran them without me even knowing.
Wow.
And so but I put the work into it and I believed in the design, so I said, sure, I'll take it. So I've had them in my shop as kits that people could build. But I think because they're fairly complicated pieces and because more and more the hobby's going towards
this
the
was
collecting.
a kit. Yeah. Right. Yes.
Right. So I decided to do build-ups. So I've done a run of 20 build-ups where I weathered everything and I painted everything and I removed the little bits of paint and anodizing.
So what are you using for the weathering here? Because I'm seeing it doesn't look like the aluminum black that I use.
Yep.
What are you using here?
Heat.
Okay. Because I was going to say, it looks like I'm seeing reds and oranges, almost like a heat stain.
Yep, these are different levels of heat staining that I heat stain it and then I pull back. Sometimes when you get a mark that doesn't seem like it should be on this saber, if it's a lightsaber, then I sort of pull it back with some Scotch-Brite or steel wool, and then I go for another round of the heat staining.
It looks great.
I do each one of these pieces separately so that it looks like a piece that is assembled, right, rather than just done over once, with one technique. And then it'll come with a vented pommel cap. Right, that has the Anakin Starkiller logo that I pulled from an Armitage Shanks hand wheel, so you can swap it out. And it also has this extra pommel cap version if you want to do, because there's on the original prop, there are two different versions of the tri-rings, right? Sometimes there's a thicker tri-ring that has these little bracers on it.
Right.
And then sometimes, in the scene with the David Tennant robot, where he has it in his hand.
Yeah.
Right? Huyin, thank you.
Yeah.
The tri-ring is more this way. It's a little bit bigger and it doesn't have this. So I've assembled these so that this version of the tri-ring is on the static and this is on the FX. But if you decide that you want to have both versions of this tri-ring, you can swap out this part. It's the same part. It's just there's an extra groove here to accommodate the larger tri-ring, and this one is for the thinner tri-ring.
Right. So right there, that proves my point about accuracy. When people say, "Well, is this accurate to screen?" And I always say, "Well, accurate to what?" You know what I mean? Because in every scene, it could be a slightly different version of what you're seeing. And you can even see that right here. We've got the, totally different D-rings.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I never know how to answer people like that. It's
if you, because sometimes people, they get nervous about having a prop that's not accurate, right?
Right.
But if you're like, well, what does it matter to you if you don't really know what it looks like?
Right, exactly.
You have to if you really want to have the most accurate, you got to get into the weeds and you got to know the history.
I feel like you need to kind of have every version of, let's say, Darth Vader's lightsaber. You need a DV6, you need this, you need that, you know what I mean? Just to get the accurate version, because if we have this idea that there's one entity of a lightsaber, and that lightsaber is the end-all, be-all to what that lightsaber looks like, but it's not.
Yeah.
This scene could be something totally different from the next scene that we see them in.
There's also this weird thing, too, in the fan community where people try to, one-up each other or ruin each other's collections by being like, yours isn't accurate, mine's more accurate than yours. Yeah. You might as well throw that in the garbage and spend another $1,000 for the one that's slightly different.
I hear and see that stuff.
One thing I would like to mention about this saber is if you buy one of these from @StarsN, 20% of the proceeds of the profit for it is going to go to relief efforts in Ukraine.
Oh wow, awesome.
If you need a good excuse to justify buying one of these when your wife is yelling at you about a lightsaber, you can say
we're saving the world.
Exactly.
We're helping.
One lightsaber at a time.
So this is hollow. Are you able to install it if somebody wanted to grab one?
Yeah, so what I did, the way that it comes apart is this unscrews, and then under the clamp card there are two screws that hold this part onto this part. When it comes apart, it's hollow, and you can install it. It has a 1-inch inside. The sync pins here are installed with a 3M VHB, very high bond tape. That's like a little film tape that I wrapped around and inserted it. But you can pull those out and then slide this down and do your electronics. I didn't want to glue them in place permanently because then I can get in trouble. In terms of how it takes a blade, what you do is actually you unscrew these two, right? And then there are set screws here and here that hold that blade plug in place. If you remove those set screws, you take this out, and then you will install your blade, and you'll have 4mm set screws that hold the blade in place.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I normally don't.
Did I see another version?
Yeah. So to promote the trying to contribute to the relief efforts, Haloax and I did a build-up where we used the colors of the flag of Ukraine, blue and gold, And we sort of had in our mind, right, that this is Sabine's lightsaber in Ahsoka. But she's planning on giving it back to Ezra at some point, and then halfway through the show, he's like, "No, you keep it. It's yours now." So we were like, as an artist, what would she do to it?
Right,
like, there's no way she wouldn't graffiti it.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Yeah.
we had this in our mind, and we were like, "What's the graffitied version of Sabine?" Right? She's not for muted colors.
Yeah.
Right. So we brighten it up, and we have a blue base, and we have some gold accents and stuff like that. I'll probably auction that off at some
Awesome.
point myself.
Yeah, I saw that one. I was like, dude, that's pretty freaking cool. I'll pop a photo on the screen here so you guys can see it. But I love that version,
Yeah.
man.
Sorry, I should have brought that one down.
No, it's all good. So you have some other ones to take a look at too, right?
Yep.
All right, let's get those out.